Tell me how I can keep my church.
If we can no longer separate the innocent from the guilty, everything that happened to us, all of our suffering, is meaningless.
Welcome to What the Flick, everybody. Ben Mankiewicz, John Iadarola, Robert Abele, Alonso, Duralde. Episode 3, 2 boats and a helicopter of The Leftovers. And I got it. I guess I'm getting more into it. And you said, Robert, before we started taping, that it was an action-packed episode.
Yeah, because they focused on one character for one thing, which I like it when, I mean, it kind of reminded me of like a Twilight Zone episode where you're going to get like one storyline, you know, this should be an anthology series, is what it should be. It's not going to be that probably, but I mean, we at least got one character for the full hour.
What do you mean
and
it
like
should be an anthology series?
It should be like, if this huge thing had happened all over the world, why don't we get a story every week from a different culture,
like
every single...
the Purge series.
Yeah. Like, exactly.
See the book,
Yeah,
actually.
But I like that we stuck with, you know, but anyway, you had the character, my problem with the first 2 episodes was you didn't really know what people were going after. You need characters that have some sort of like direction with what they're doing. This guy has direction. This guy has tangible goals, and we saw him like try desperately to fulfill them. So I thought that was good.
I mean, I have to say, at the beginning, I was thinking like, oh, I like the idea of episodes being about characters. I didn't know that I wanted to watch an whole episode about this character in particular. But as it unfolded, I got more and more into it, and I loved the sort of unexpected twist in terms of the like telling the sister that her husband cheated on her, and like, you know, they kept upping the ante, literally, in fact. And you know, so I got more into it as it went along.
Yeah. As a gambler, that was a very tough scene. I was like, he lost. It's black. It's black, because that fucking bitch came down to the table and fucking brought it on back. Who fucking does that?
Your palms are sweating.
Right. I don't even like this guy. He's insane. He's ruining people's lives, right? And I was like, yes! Yeah.
I'm glad that they focused on the one character. I didn't watch Lost, but I heard that that's what they did very frequently, was focus on a character, do a lot of flashbacks and stuff like that. And I think that they needed it because in the first 2 episodes, you have everybody's emotional state is pretty similar. They're sad, they're depressed, they're thinking about what happened and all that. And then physically, maybe this was just me, I feel like every guy in the show, other than the police chief, looks identical. Those twins look exactly like the guy's son. They all look like a Matt Damon clone, like 2 or 3 generations removed.
The twins are brunettes and the son is blonde. I mean,
yeah, the hair aside, they all have the exact same like G.I. Joe facial features and everything.
What about the dog shooting guy? He doesn't look like anybody else.
Yeah, he's a little bit different. But anyway, so I'm glad that they actually they gave us enough time to focus on someone to actually start to care about what he's doing. Because you said, why are we focusing on this guy? But by the end, I was glad that they focused on him.
Right. I was at first I was not into it, and then I was. By the end of this, I did care about him. And
a great zinger ending too, I thought.
What was the ending?
That the fucking Guilty Remnants took.
I mean,
just that the Guilty Remnants took his church.
That halfway through. I mean, it's one of those funny things where like they leave that as revealed at the end, but like, why wouldn't why wouldn't the bank guy?
Well, if it's,
he might not have known.
He might not have known. If it's just some holding company.
Sometimes they
shell company.
I wish they wouldn't hold on to information. I mean, my big problem with the show actually is that if you're not going to tell us anything, and about what this event is, why don't we have stories where people are trying desperately to find out what exactly happened? I mean, like, I feel like people are just kind of lounging around, but like, wouldn't you all be like checking the internet every day to find out, you know, somebody's investigating this somewhere around the world?
3 years later, and in the pilot, there was that whole congressional hearing where they finally deliver the whatever report, and the report basically says we have no idea. Right. So at this point, people are like giving up, and that's the more dispiriting thing, is that there's nothing left to research or investigate. It's just like, well, we have no fucking clue.
But I think there is. I think that the woman who lost her whole family, I think there's lots more going on there. I kind of agree with you. She might have actually killed them or something like that. But her asking the questions...
I don't agree with me anymore.
Well, in any event, I don't think that she has to ask those questions. I think she's trying to generate data, trying to find something that connects the people. Like the 20 partners, the 6 languages, that's too random. I think she's trying to find some sort of pattern that runs through all the characters.
Which Christopher Eccleston, in his own way, is also trying to like, if only his whole thing of debunking the notion of this being any kind of rapture is he's sort of he's doing his own like Carrie Matthews yarn on the bulletin board with the connecting the thumbtacks
Never should have told him to watch The Wire.
So I think there is at least I think maybe some, but they're the people who are, but they seem to have they seem to have kind of maybe a somewhat more tenuous grasp on what's left of reality maybe than some other characters who've decided to like just deal with their day to day and not so much as far as the big issues of why this all happened. I got a little lost because I was watching it this morning. I was still waking up. The connection between Eccleston and Amy Brenneman's character.
None. Merely that they know each other and that he went to dig up the money, which evidently, was that note from the father, or was that note from the?
But he's friends with the police chief. So I mean, they know just in a
Right, they know each
social-
other, but mostly.
socially.
But the reason it was there was the automatic light went on, and she clearly at night went to stare at her family's house and think about her daughter and all the things she'd given up, and so they just had a moment
Right,
of.
but then she also turns up in his like crazy nightmare too.
I
so
think
didn't know
just
if that
I
was-
presume that was because he had
seen her
stumbled on her
recently,
recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows him socially. He probably had
Remember, because he said, we'll come over, we'll grill steaks like the good old days. So
the good old days,
he had
exactly.
been at that house back when things were
And
normal.
I thought what I really liked was the going back to the pilot basically and discovering, oh, you were the guy in the car that crashed
Yeah, that
when
was nice.
the
Right. Who left the note for him? Scott Glenn?
Yeah.
Or
Scott
Justin
Glenn.
Thoreau?
I can't believe they share the same initials, right?
Yeah,
But I read it as the dad.
Justin Thoreau's like a junior, right?
Yeah. So I read it as that was the dad had left that.
Right, because,
Yeah.
okay. But we'll find
really
out.
fast,
I'm
just
sure.
in terms of his motivations. I know you, in one of the previous reviews, you talked about how you couldn't buy him as the police chief.
You still can't.
It just seems sort of off. I have a very hard time believing that 3 years after everything that happened, I totally buy the cult starting to spring up, perhaps even new religions, stuff like that. I don't see Christians abandoning the church after an event like that. Like the shot of him preaching to like 4 people in a full church, I found that it seems like a bunch of atheists wrote this show and just don't understand how committed.
I thought about that, and I think actually that maybe in the immediate aftermath, there probably was even higher attendance, and I think then as time went by and there were no answers and there was no explanation and there was no comfort to be found, that's why people are moving on to the Guilty Remnants or to Huggy Bear or whatever, where they, wherever they're getting,
getting
their
an
sucker
answer.
because they're not getting it
He doesn't.
from
He
the
doesn't
church.
have an answer. I could see where mainstream religion, and again,
Or
in
maybe
one
he
small.
drove them away specifically from
Maybe.
that church.
That's
I
also
think
true,
that's-
yeah.
But I could see where mainstream religion would take a hit in the years afterward.
It's
That
been
you've
taking it.
provided.
I mean, Christianity is not as
Right.
popular as it once was.
Something-
Also, we're in the very white town. My guess is if this story were taking place in in a culture where like the Catholic Church is really popular, like in a
Central America or
Yeah,
something.
I mean, it would be about how it's taken over. I mean,
or like or Southern Baptists.
Yeah,
like they
exactly.
may so. I could see where sort of just a random Episcopal church in a small town, people would be like, and with the crazy.
Especially with him personally being on this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
you know.
he's
and Episcopalians are on the edge of just like always leaving anyway. So I grew up going.
on,
So, but what's interesting is that we're learning each week. We've learned a tiny bit more about the woman who lost her whole family. Like she's actually clearly a terribly significant character.
Yeah.
And we learned in the first week and that's when I had she killed him, right? And then by week 2, she didn't kill him. I was off that by last week, and now we learned that this is. And then she's mysteriously hugging this guy, and you thought, what is she up to? And I'm like, oh, it's her brother. She's not up to anything in that case. Yeah.
And now, what's the deal with the GRs who are staring at Eccleston? Was that all that just about getting him to give up the church to them, or
They just like to go
They
see
look
Bear.
for people on the edge, people
Yeah.
who might be able to.
oh, they just think he's
Yeah.
weak and not holding on
Maybe.
to. Oh, okay. Well, that's.
But I think we're setting up something.
not wrong.
There's a central their moment at the end, the last shot with Christopher Eccleston looking at Ann Dowd and back and forth. I mean, they're clearly setting up something involving a, kind of a clash.
Yeah.
Something that's they're going to be the two forces, the two religious forces that are against each other for the rest of the season. I get the impression.
I would like to know if she is just sort of like the
By the way,
house
it's not
mother.
It's not a cult. They were very clear.
It's not a cult.
Not a cult.
Yeah, if you write it down,
Yeah.
it's not a cult.
Has a cult ever said, "Oh yes, we're a cult"? I mean, like
Exactly.
nobody ever owns
Come
that.
join our cult.
But so I wonder if she's just like the leader of this particular sect, if it's like a franchise sort of thing, or if she's like the figurehead, because a cult needs a leader.
They said there were 50 of them in the pilot, I think. Didn't they say there were
50 members.
Only 50 members.
Well, I know, but it might be of that
Locally,
particular
but I think,
house.
But
Oh,
obviously
you think
they
it's only
have
locally?
this LLC that can buy the church, and I'm sure they cropped up in other cities.
Yeah.
I'm a
you
little
know.
bothered by the, is what Robert, what you said at the beginning. I'm a little bothered by the narrowness of this. Like, I would like a little bigger picture. This happened
We need
around the
more
world.
information. There's no
they're just
reason-
unless the point is to drib it and drab it out to keep
But
us
there's,
watching.
yeah, but
you
there's
know?
no reason they couldn't have given that first pilot. Just giving you a little history of what the Guilty Remnants are, what they're about. I mean, this whole thing where you like find out bit by bit. I mean, I even had a problem with finding out about Eccleston's wife at the end as a flashback to October 14th. I just thought, okay, that's fine, but I mean, it doesn't make sense to do that. You just have us know. We'll feel for him.
Yeah, why'd you wait?
So the judge,
Why wait? Why is that a reveal?
and so that judge, let the judge seemed to be in, the suggestion is the judge that he was allowed to go after, like everybody gave him that one. His sister gave him that one. The cop, Justin Theroux, understood that one. So what we think that judge, being corrupt, took a bribe and let somebody go. And I thought that and then the judge vanished. But like, why? How does the judge relate to his wife? Her accident came about as a result of the
We might not
vanishing.
have all the information
I was
yet.
gonna say,
Yeah.
I suspect that there's
It's going
more,
to turn
more
out she
to
wasn't
come.
killed, but it was just a drunk driver who the judge let go. But then he I don't know. I thought I had it, and then I'm confused.
Yeah.
I am glad that they moved into the church, though. I think that that's showing some acceleration because they didn't buy an apartment building. It's not like they need more housing for more members.
Right.
This
Well,
signals
sure.
a shift in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Perhaps they're going to change their strategy, which is good.
Yeah. So
The sermons are short.
yeah, right.
I don't get the smoking, too. That bothers me. Why the smoking?
The smoke is to hasten their own deaths, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that was my
it is, but
impression.
it just
Maybe.
feels so
Yeah, but
posery.
drink some
It's like-
bleach. It's faster. And can I ask you, just because I wasn't
Eating
in the first
McDonald's all the time, that would be great.
two, obese.
Big gulp, you know.
That's true. They share this oatmeal in the morning. But imagine if they were just a big. Every day somebody went out and
Egg
came back with
McMuffins.
100 egg McMuffins for everybody.
It's just fondue, just every night. So I have a question just because I wasn't here for the first two. We've heard, at least anecdotally, that dogs who saw someone leave went crazy, and that's why there are these packs of dogs.
Right.
Has there been any addressing of if anyone saw another person actually leave?
Not yet. No.
Because
It hasn't specifically been mentioned. I mean, obviously, I think maybe there's been brief references to like kids seeing their parents or something,
Okay.
but the implication being that humanity is going to go that way as well, and obviously it did happen to people, and I think every question we're asking they're going to get to by the end of the, or
Well,
hopefully
it's
by
just
the end of the
we
season.
have so little information about the nature of the event. If it turns out that no human saw another human leave, that implies some sort of design to the whole thing,
that-
because
that's
randomly
right.
that would
No,
not
but
happen.
that kid in the beginning, when the baby vanished,
Yeah.
there was also a kid pushing a
Right.
shopping cart with his dad,
Right, and
and
then
he
the dad's
says,
gone.
"My dad was right there," and he just gone.
But maybe he turned and looked
Yeah,
back.
okay,
and
but
the
we
way
don't-
the
we don't
mother
know.
did, you know.
Right, but we didn't see the dad vanish, so we presume that when the kid said, "I was just walking with my dad," and then he was gone. I don't think that's going to be a thing.
Which is
That
why I
seems
would like
like
to
a,
see. I'd like to see science addressed in the show at some point. I mean, there has to be some like
like where the people leading.
scientists around the world have to be like looking at this event, and going like, what happened and how could it
again,
happen?
I think that was the point of the first episode, to unveil this big governmental report, and nobody's got anything.
It doesn't seem like real science. Be like, well, we spent 3 years. I guess we'll never know.
No, but that's one of the reasons I thought this episode was good was because by giving us a character, a religious person who I like the irony of like of a deeply religious person being confronted with what amounts to a miracle and having it basically send him over the deep end.
Yeah.
It's like miracles are such fabulous things in the church. It's like, oh no, here's another miracle. Not so good.
Yeah.
I can't decide if I admire or am just sort of rolling my eyes at the parallel symbolism of baptizing the kid and then washing his wife's hair, both with pouring the cup
Yeah.
of water on it. Like
Interesting.
I can't decide if that's nice or dude.
I didn't even know.
And
Too much.
And the birds, like the birds, I guess,
Yeah,
are
the
for him.
The pigeons thing.
Yeah,
The
Or a
pigeons are
signal to
a
him,
signal to
yeah.
him, but it looked like they were an ominous signal. Maybe they were, I guess. But the good news is is he's got $140,000. Yeah. I mean, what a relief that you don't have to like keep running that decrepit church. You get to keep $140,000.
Printer with some ink in it.
Just hope that guy who you beat the shit out of doesn't have his girlfriend doesn't go and have him arrested.
Oh, except how eager. Like I've seldom have thought a character where I thought, I don't care if you're dead. Don't care. World's a better place if he's gone.
The next episode starts with Christopher Eccleston on the beach in Key West with like a yellow, Panama shirt on and some like sunglasses, drinking a Mai Tai.
I also wonder. I wonder if they'll ever address like, have we had confirmation that only humans were taken, or were 2% of all animals also taken? Like, I don't know that that would matter necessarily, but I would be interested to find out about that.
I don't remember if it's been mentioned, but I don't think.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think we.
And also, so my question is
2% of every species.
maybe, well, but that would again tell us something about the nature of the event.
Yeah.
But I do wonder the betting. Was it just that he was inspired because of the lights or whatever to bet 3 times in a row? Or when he's like concentrating with his eyes shut, is that supposed to be a subtle hint of some potential power he has or something?
No. I think he's using the pigeons as kind of the omen, and I think he's praying probably because again, this episode is called 2 Boats and a Helicopter, and God is answering his prayers, but what he does with that obviously is.
Yeah, and the 3 bets is just. That's what he needed to get to the 135,000 and
160.
Well, it got him to 160.
Oh,
but
right,
he
135 and 1,000.
Yeah. Right, but he needed to give, but he put 20 back.
Taxes or anything? I thought that was odd. You just get the 160,000?
You know what? He is with a church, so
That's true. Yeah.
You'll have to declare it. All right, we gotta go. Episode we'll be back next week. I mean, intrigued, a little irritated, but intrigued.
Yeah.
I'm still in.
That wasn't a Robert with a very. Yeah.
This is better.
As long as it's not a full Liv Tyler episode, I'll be fine.
Are you not into her?
Not in that context. I don't need any more trees.
All right, guys, thanks.